Hello, welcome back to We the People Politics. Today, we will be making a tier list ranking the potential Democratic nominees for the 2024 presidential election by how likely they would be to defeat President Trump in November. Obviously, Joe Biden is the presumptive nominee as he has already passed the required number of delegates required for the nomination. However, it is always important to expect the unexpected and have a backup plan. In determining how good each candidate is, we will look at their electoral history, popularity, charisma, demographics appeal, and record of accomplishments and failures. Like in my last video, I would like to clarify that this does not reflect my personal opinions regarding these candidates, save for my views on their chances of defeating Trump. With all that said, let's get ranking. We will start with President Biden, who doesn't really need that much of an introduction. He has been definitely struggling in the polls ever since October, and public perception regarding his performance as president has definitely worsened since he took office in 2021. He tends to have a higher approval rating regarding his handling of Ukraine and the environment, but a lower approval rating regarding his handling of immigration and the Israel-Palestine conflict. The one advantage he does have over the other candidates is his name recognition and status, which greatly eclipse the other candidates. With all of this information, we will say that overall, he is a good candidate, and we will base all other candidates off of his placement. The next candidate is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, who has served in that position after defeating the Republican incumbent since 2013. She ran for the 2020 Democratic nomination and ultimately earned the third highest delegate count, although she was briefly considered the frontrunner. As a nominee, she would likely win the female vote by a large margin. However, she does not have a particularly presidential or likable personality, and I do not think she would be able to counter Trump's attacks very well, so we will say that she is not optimal. Up next, we have former Congressman Beto ORourke, who is a representative of Texas's 16th District from 2013 to 2019. In 2018, he ran for the Texas Senate seat occupied by Ted Cruz and ended up losing by only 2%. However, in 2022, he ran against Governor Greg Abbott and lost by a whopping 10%. He also ran for the 2020 Democratic nomination, but failed to gain any traction before dropping out and endorsing Biden. Demographically speaking, he doesn't appeal to many demographics, although he could help Democrats in the state of Texas and fellow border state Arizona. He does have charisma and a certain presidential aura about him. However, due to his recent loss to Greg Abbott by a 10% margin, we will put him below Biden in the good tier. Next, we have New York Representative Alexandria Cortez, more commonly referred to as AOC. She has been New York's 14th Congressional District's representative since 2018 after she defeated a 10-term incumbent, making her the youngest woman to ever serve in the House of Representatives. She is largely known for submitting the Green New Deal to the House in 2019, and despite it dying in committee, she submitted it again in 2021. While I think she would do well with young, Hispanic, and female voters, she would likely struggle significantly with moderate and centrist voters who dislike her socialist proposals. She isn't very presidential, and I think she would struggle against Trump, especially in the Rust Belt region. For those reasons, we would say that she would actually be a bad choice. We now move on to Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, who has served in that position since 2020 following a narrow runoff election against incumbent Kelly Loeffler. He was re-elected in 2022 after a second close runoff election against Herschel Walker. He is widely considered to be one of the most bipartisan senators and was ranked by GovTrack as the most politically right-wing of all Democrat senators. As a Democratic nominee, he would likely appeal to moderates and black voters, especially in the swing states of Georgia and North Carolina. I think that he would be likely more appealing to voters in general as he is fairly charismatic. I would say that since his only real flaw is that he is relatively unexperienced and kind of boring, he will be in the very good tier. We now move to California Governor Gavin Newsom, who has occupied that position since 2018 and was also the lieutenant governor for 8 years. While I would say he's an okay debater and speaker, he would receive a significant amount of criticism regarding his handling of COVID-19 and the economy in California. That, along with the fact that California is viewed very negatively and he doesn't appeal to any major demographics, we will put him in the bad choice tier. The next potential candidate is former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who served in that position from 2007 to 2011 and then again from 2019 to 2023. She has represented 4 different California districts since 1987 and has led House Democrats since 2003. She's not very popular and is widely seen as old, corrupt, and an out-of-touch politician, which is something that I think Trump could easily exploit. I would say that she's probably less charismatic and presidential than any other candidate on this list, so we will place her at the very bottom of the bad tier. Next, we move on to Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who has served in that position since 2007. Although he is an independent, he ran for the 2016 and 2020 Democratic nominations for president, placing second in both contests. He's very highly regarded among progressives and socialists, and I personally think he would do very well in the Rust Belt among blue-collar workers. He's very charismatic, and despite his old age, I think that he would definitely be the best option for the Democrats. Next, we move on to Vice President Kamala Harris, who has served with Biden since 2021 and previously served as a senator from California. As Vice President, her poll numbers have mostly been worse than Biden's and all other vice presidents throughout polling history. Many claim she is dumb and out of touch, comparing her to former Vice President Dan Quayle. While I think she would do well with women and minorities, I think her lack of charisma would significantly hurt her, so we will place her just below Elizabeth Warren in the not optimal tier. The next potential candidate is former First Lady Michelle Obama, who, despite having announced she would not run for president, has been widely talked about as a potential replacement for Biden. I believe that she would likely benefit off of her celebrity status, and she would do very well with women and minorities. The only real problem I think she would face is the fact that she has never run for office before. She also isn't an experienced debater and might struggle against Trump. Overall, I think she would probably be right above President Biden in the good tier. Next, we move to current Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg, who has served in that role since 2021 and previously served as the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He ran for the Democratic nomination for president in 2020, and despite being viewed as a long shot, he won the Iowa caucuses and tied for first in the New Hampshire primary. However, after placing fourth in South Carolina, he dropped out and endorsed Biden. As the Democratic nominee, I think he would do well with moderate voters, young voters, and voters in the Rust Belt, as he is from Indiana. I would say that overall, his only major flaw is that he's a somewhat bland politician, but aside from that, I would say that he would be a very good option. Finally, we have former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who served under President Obama from 2009 to 2013. She was also previously a New York Senator and First Lady of the United States. She is most known for her failed 2016 election bid, in which she lost to Donald Trump in the largest political upset since 1948. And unfortunately for Clinton, I think things would only get worse for her in 2024 due to her widely being seen as a loser and a failed politician, as well as the fact that Trump has expanded his base overall since 2016. She does have some name recognition and decades of political experience on her side, so I don't think she would necessarily be the worst option on this list. So we will say she is just above the other candidates in the bad tier. And it was with that, we conclude this tier list based upon the election chances of the Democrats' potential nominees. Bernie Sanders tops the list, followed by Pete Buttigieg and Raphael Warnock. If there is anything about this list that you disagree with, feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. We got really close to passing our previous goal of 100 subscribers. Let's pass it this time around. With all of that said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.